Welcome to day 15 of Gyan Group. And let's dive immediately into the book From Power Struggle to Revenge is the name of the subchapter. And we're reading the book The Courage to be Disliked. Yesterday, we were talking about, in the previous video, we were talking about how life is not a competition. And he came to a very important point about it's not just your past trauma or all your incidences that have happened to you that are um, the cause of your um, the cause of your suffering, and it is because uh, you don't want to leave that suffering, or it is serving you in some way or the other. um, And also, if you keep thinking all the time about comparing yourself with others, then all the time there is a sense of inferiority and superiority. And the other person then always becomes your enemy. And eventually, it's not just one person, the whole world becomes your enemy because there's only the thought of victory and defeat. And it happens almost unconsciously because that's how we've been conditioned, right? And if we keep doing this, then uh, we're not living a complete fulfilled life, so the competition is good. It is with your own self rather than with the person opposite. Like, the moment you think that there is a difference between somebody and you're thinking that you are one person and the whole world is separate from you. And the moment you think that uh, you you are always in competition, and that's a very unhappy place to live in. So even a person who is 3 years old and even a person who's very old, all of them are equal. All of them have the equal capacity uh, to to live and be successful in this life. And um and if you really want people to be in your life to help you improve, then they should become positive comrades, not negative, not competitors. So yeah, let's read further. I'm just going to read the last paragraph. Raised by strict parents, the youth had been oppressed and compared to his elder brother ever since childhood. None of his opinions were ever heard, and he was subjected to the violent words that he was a poor excuse for a little brother. Unable to make friends even at school, he spent all his break time alone in the library, which became his sole place of refuge. This youth, who had passed his early years in such a way, was truly an inhabitant of etiology. If he had not been raised by those parents, if that elder brother had never existed, and if he had not attended the school, he could have had a brighter life. The youth had been trying to participate in the discussion as cool headedly as possible. But now his many years of pent up feelings came bursting out. So we enter into the next subchapter, From Power Struggle to Revenge. Okay, all this talk about teleology and such is pure sophistry, and trauma definitely does exist, and people cannot break free from the past. Surely you realize that we cannot go back to the past in a time machine. As long as the past exists as the past, we live within context from the past. If one were to treat the past as something that does not exist, that would be the same as negating the entire life one has led. Are you suggesting I choose such an irresponsible life? The philosopher says it is true that one cannot use a time machine or turn back the hands of time. But what kind of meaning does one attribute to past events? This is the task that is given to you now. Youth. All right, so let's talk about now. Last time you said that people fabricate the emotion of anger, right? And that is the standpoint of teleology. I still cannot accept that statement. For example, how would you explain instances of anger towards society or anger towards government? Would you say that these two are emotions fabricated in order to push one's opinion? Philosopher. Certainly, there are times when I feel indignation with regard to social problems. But I would say that rather than a sudden burst of emotion, it is indignation based on logic. There is a difference between personal anger, that is personal grudge, and indignation with regard to society's contradictions and injustices, that is righteous indignation. Personal anger soon cools. Righteous indignation, on the other hand, lasts for a long time. Anger, as an expression of a personal grudge, is nothing but a tool for making others submit to you, right? It's a way of dominating others, right? That they should listen to what you want to say, or they should listen to your desires or what you want. Righteous indignation, on the other hand, is like something that you see as injustice that's happening on a broader level, not individual. There, they are completely different. So the youth asks, you say that personal grudges and righteous indignation are different? Philosopher, they are completely different because righteous indignation goes beyond one's own interests. The youth says, then I'll ask about personal grudges. Surely, even you get angry sometimes. For instance, if someone hurls abuse at you for no particular reason, don't you? The philosopher says, no, I don't. The youth says, come on, be honest. The philosopher, if someone were to abuse me to my face, I would think about the person's hidden goal. Even if you're not directly abusive, when you feel genuinely angry due to another person's words or behavior, please consider that the person is challenging you to a power struggle. The youth asks, what is power struggle? Philosopher, for instance, a child will tease an adult with various pranks and misbehaviors. In many cases, this is something done with the goal of getting attention and will cease just before the adult gets genuinely angry. However, if the child does not stop before the adult gets genuinely angry, then his goal is actually to get in a fight. Why would he want to get in a fight? Asks the youth. The philosopher, he wants to win. He wants to prove his power by winning. Youth, I don't get that. Could you give me some concrete examples? Philosopher, let's say you and a friend have been discussing the current political situation. Before long, it turns into a heated argument, and neither of you is willing to accept any differences of opinion until finally it reaches the point where he starts engaging in personal attacks. That you are stupid, and it's because of people like you that this country doesn't change, that sort of thing. The youth, but if someone said that to me, I won't be able to put up with it. Philosopher, in this case, what is the other person's goal? Is it only that he wants to discuss politics? No, it isn't. It's that he finds you unbearable and he wants to criticize and provoke you and make you submit through a power struggle. If you get angry at this point, the moment he has been anticipating will arrive and the relationship will suddenly turn into a power struggle. No matter what the provocation, you must not get taken in. Youth. No, there's no need to run away from it. If someone wants to start a fight, it's fine to accept it because it's the other guy who's at fault. Anyway, you can bash his nose in, the stupid fool, with words, that is, philosopher. Now, let's say you take control of the quarrel, and then the other man who was seeking to defeat you withdraws into a sportsmanlike manner. The thing is, the power struggle doesn't end there. Having lost the dispute, he rushes on to the next stage. What's the next stage? The philosopher says, yes, it's the revenge stage. Though he has withdrawn from for the time being, he will be scheming some revenge in another place and another form and will reappear with an act of retaliation. Like what, for instance? The philosopher says the child oppressed by his parents will turn to delinquency. He'll stop going to school, he'll cut his wrists or engage in other acts of self harm. In Freudian etiology, this is regarded as simple cause and effect. The parents raised the child in this way, and that is why the child grew up to be like this. It's just like pointing out that a plant wasn't watered, so it withered. It's an interpretation that is certainly easy to understand, but Adlerian teleology does not turn a blind eye to the goal that the child is hiding. That is to say, the goal of revenge on the parents. If he becomes a delinquent, stops going to school, cuts his wrists, or things like that, the parents will be upset. They'll panic and worry themselves sick over him. It is in the knowledge that this will happen and that the child engages in problem behavior so that the current goal, that is revenge on the parents, can be realized not because he is motivated by past causes, that is the home environment. Youth, he engages in a problem behavior in order to upset his parents? Question mark. The philosopher, that's right. There are probably a lot of people who feel mystified by seeing a child who cuts his wrists and think, why would he do such a thing? But try to think how the people around the child, the parents, for instance, will feel as a result of the behavior of wrist cutting. If you do, the goal behind the behavior should come into view of its own accord. The goal being revenge. You mean? Asks the youth. Philosophy, yes. And once the interpersonal relationship takes the revenge stage, it is almost impossible for either party to find a solution. To prevent this from happening, when one is challenged to a power struggle, one must never allow oneself to be taken in. The name of the next subchapter is, which continues, Admitting Fault is Not Defeat. Youth, all right, then you should say, so we continue from before, that to prevent this revenge stage from coming in during the power struggle, you should not be taken in. What does that mean? The youth asks, all right, then what should you do when you're subjected to personal attacks right to your face? Do you just grin and bear it? Philosopher, no. The idea that you're bearing it is proof that you are still stuck in the power struggle. When you are challenged to a fight and you sense that it is a power struggle, step down from the conflict as soon as possible. Do not answer his action with a reaction. That is the only thing we can do. Youth, but is it really that easy to not respond to provocation? In the first place, how would you say I should control my anger? Philosopher, when you control your anger, you're bearing it, right? Instead, let's learn a way to settle things without using the emotion of anger. Because after all, anger is a tool, a means for achieving a goal. The youth says that's tough. So here we are not we are not entering the power struggle. We are stepping back and uh, stepping down from conflict. We are not provoking, we are not controlling our anger, and we are not even bearing it. So how do we do that? The first thing that I want you to understand here is the fact that anger is a form of communication, and that communication is nevertheless possible without using anger. We can convey our thoughts and intentions and be accepted without any need for anger. If you learn to understand this experientially, the anger emotion will stop appearing all on its own. I think this is very, very, very important. Sometimes, even when we feel for somebody, we feel sad or we want to help somebody. For me, I've noticed I use anger as an emotion to achieve that, to I feel that I can get angry and help that person, but not, it doesn't work every time. Philosopher. So the youth says, but what if they come to you with mistaken accusations or make insulting comments? I shouldn't get angry even then. The philosopher says, you don't seem to understand yet. It's not that you mustn't get angry, but that there is no need to rely on the tool of anger. This is very, very amazing. You don't need to rely on the tool of anger. Irascible people do not have short tempers. It is only that they do not know that there are effective communication tools other than anger. That is why people end up saying things like, I just snapped, or he flew into a rage. We end up relying on anger to communicate. This is beautiful. The moment we understand that, instead of using the first of all, we need to understand that we're using anger as a tool. It's not something, it is an emotion, but we use this emotion to achieve our goals, right? And the second thing, that's not the only tool. We can use better communication skills instead of anger. Youth, effective communication tools other than anger. What is that? Philosopher, we have language. We can communicate through language. Believe in the power of language and the language of logic. Youth, certainly, if I did not believe in that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Philosopher, one more thing about power struggles. In every instance, no matter how much you might think you're right, try not to criticize the other party on that basis. This is an interpersonal relationship trap that many people fall into. I think this is so important for me. I remember my guru, he always, in all his communication, he always said that never criticize anybody, never demean anybody, never talk rudely to anybody. I don't think I follow all of it, but I also understand now why he used to tell us that. So the philosopher says, in every instance, no matter how much you might think you're right, try not to criticize the other party on that basis. So telling the other party that how you're right and the other person is wrong, never criticize on that basis. This is an interpersonal relationship trap that many people fall into. Youth, why is that? Philosopher, the moment one is convinced that I am right in an interpersonal relationship, one has already stepped into a power struggle. Yeah, that's dangerous. Youth, just because you think you're right, no way. That's just blowing things all out of proportion. The youth is still not agreeing. The philosopher, I'm right. That is to say, the other party is wrong. At that point, the focus of the discussion shifts from the rightness of the assertions to the state of interpersonal relationships. In other words, the conviction that I am right leads to the assumption that this person is wrong. And finally, it becomes a contest, and you are thinking, I have to win. It's a power struggle through and through. Youth. Philosopher. In the first place, the rightness of one's assertion has nothing to do with winning or losing. If you think you are right, regardless of what other people's opinions might be, the matter should be closed then and there. Philosopher, in the first place, the rightness of one's assertion has nothing to do with winning or losing. If you think you're right, regardless of what other people's opinions might be, the matter should be closed then and there. Yeah, the moment you realize you're right and the other person is never going to understand this, you don't need to get into an argument. You just close that topic. However, many people will rush into a power struggle, which we are, I think this is so relate. This is so, I can so relate to this. However, many people will rush into a power struggle and try to make others submit to them. And that is why they think of admitting a mistake as admitting defeat. Beautiful. Yes, youth. Yes, there definitely is that aspect. Philosopher. Because of one's mindset of not wanting to lose, one is unable to admit one's mistake. The result being that one ends up choosing the wrong path. Admitting mistakes, conveying words of apology, and stepping down from power struggles. None of these things is defeat. The pursuit of superiority is not something that is carried out through competition with other people. Youth. So, when you're hung up on winning and losing, you lose the ability to make the right choices. The philosopher, yes. It clouds your judgment, and all you can see is imminent victory or defeat. Then you turn down the wrong path. It's only when we take away the lenses of competition and winning and losing that we can begin to correct and change ourselves. This is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we are on page 74, and I think that's enough for today. I hope you had great insights from this. See you in the next video, a meditation coming right on. And have a nice day. Lots of love. Please like, share, and comment. Close your eyes, bring yourself in a graceful posture. Bring your attention to your breath. Take your own time. And if you feel like you can rub your palms, bring them over your eyes and face. And welcome back.